Dr. Prinkert said, I know I don't claim to be an expert in this. I have lots of little tips and tricks that worked for me that I'm excited to share, and I know Kate does too, and then give you some ideas of how I plan to use it in my class next year, even when we are face-to-face in school, just to give you some ideas. And Kate and I have talked too that we would love to get through our tips and tricks, some of which maybe you know, some of which maybe are new, and then hear your ideas too for things that you would like to share that worked well for you.
Okay, so we've decided to break things up into two portions. Our first portion was really about engagement, just engaging students online. And then the second portion will be about academics. We'll throw out a few things that were important for us and give you a quick rundown, share our screen of what it looks like to do those things. And we'll try to keep it brief so that we can open it up to you and you can share with us what's worked for you. Or if you have any questions, we can dive into a little bit more detail. Does that sound good? All right, excellent. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen at this time. Regarding engagement during distance learning, I found that it was really super important as a 6th grade teacher. Can y'all see? Sorry, everybody's good? Okay, to get everybody in the same place. And, you know, I feel like last year we were all in different modes when it came to communicating with families. So I worked right at the beginning on getting parent observer accounts set up. And I want to show you real quick how I did that. It was something we went over briefly at the PD in November, but it was something I had to work through and something I had to streamline, but then it really facilitated having the Canvas inbox at my fingertips to contact parents for that purpose. So let me move this real quick. When you are in your Canvas page, if you go to the tab called People, this is where you want to start if you're going to set up parent observer accounts. Up here in the top right corner, there are 3 dots. And if you click on it, I've obviously not got any pairing codes because this is just my sandbox, like save everything. There are no students in here. And you're going to choose the bottom option, which is export pairing codes. And that's going to generate an Excel sheet for you. It gives you the student's name and it gives you a code. Then from there, what I did was I went into my homeroom in Skyward and I went through each student. I clicked on the email that was associated with their family and I had a pre-made blurb about, here, this is how you can communicate with me during this time. And then I would paste the kid's name and code at the bottom, send the email, and then I'd move on down my list. That's how I found I could really most efficiently manage setting up the parent observer accounts. And I mean, I didn't get all of them, not by any stretch of the imagination, but when it came time to communicate with parents, I knew I could reach a lot of them in the Canvas inbox in one click. So does anybody have any questions about parent observer accounts? Okay, I will take your silence as confirmation that we are good. Erin, do you have anything to add about parent observer accounts? Is that something that you did or?
I did set it up because I found it really useful to use my email, my inbox on Canvas, which is in that blue bar. I don't know how many of you used your inbox in Canvas, but I found it really helpful as a quick way to message individual students, individual parents, groups of students, my whole class all at once. And so I did the same thing that Kate was talking about. I generated a list and then sent out my blurb through email. And it does take a while up front, but it saved a lot of time in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Goodness gracious, I'm still learning how to share my screen, and every time I try to change my tab, the Zoom tab keeps showing up and thwarting me. Okay,
Hey,
Let's
Kate.
see. Yes, ma'am.
Before we go on, I think somebody had a question about what do parents have to do? Do you know how much work is on their end to set up the account? Did you give them, or anybody give them like step-by-step directions to set it up, or just the code and then they figured it out?
Sure, I can cover that. In my email, basically, I instructed them to go to MCCSE and then to click on Canvas. Then I wanted them to click here, parent of a Canvas user, click here for an account, right here, if you can see it on my screen. And then that would prompt them for the code to pair. That was basically the step-by-step that I gave them in my email.
That's great. Thank you. I think
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Erin touched on using the Canvas inbox, and I think we're going to talk more about that. Sorry, go ahead. But as far as communicating with students, the tool I use most often,
The handicap spot.
can't seem to get, okay, I need to figure out how to get to there.
Just go back out of
got it.
handicap spots.
Okay, was the announcement feature. And you know, communicating with 12-year-olds, you got to figure out the right way to get to them. You got to make it minimal, but you got to make it direct. And I found that the announcements feature was a way that I was able to reach all my students quickly, and that was how I would touch base with my students at the beginning of each day. So here is just a quick scroll through how I managed every day. I would set up a morning message for them, and it sometimes looked like a video. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Walmart does not carry Fresca. No.
So, and as far as embedding videos into announcements, we can talk about that if you'd like. Sometimes, let's see if I can find one. Occasionally I used, let's see if I can get one here. My laptop is older than my children, so bear with me. I embedded an educreation presentation. So that was a way to interact. Sometimes it was just a quick question for them to respond to in the chat feature. And then I would follow up the next day with the answer to their would you rather question. And so announcements was really kind of the key to see who was coming to interact with me every day and creating a sense of community. Aside from get in here, here's your module, let's go. Anybody have any questions about that?
Hey, Kate.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you want to talk about you're at Grandview?
Yes.
I think you said that in departmentalizing or not departmentalizing. And did you do this message for just homeroom kids, or do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. You know, so at Grandview as a 6th grade homeroom teacher, I'm covering more than just 6th grade. My co-teacher and I taught math and science to 6th grade and to 5th grade as well. And the 5th grade teachers covered the English language arts, social studies, and we share the load that way. And then when things kind of shook down so quickly, we found that we're just going to switch and continue managing what we know how to manage. And so you can see here on my dashboard that I am a teacher in not only my homeroom class, but in the other 6th grade class and in both 5th grade classes. And so I did not create announcements for students who were not in my homeroom, but I did use the announcement feature when I had something math or science related for the 5th grade, because when we got to be apart and needing to take care of all of this together, I took on the duty of handling the math and science instruction for 5th grade. And I can show you some of that, but announcements were primarily for engaging my homeroom cohort. All right. Now, let's see, one more thing I'd like to cover before I throw it over to you, Miss Erin. Let me see if I can find it. I've done something to my Zoom and I do not know how to make it come back to me. We're gonna go right back here. Beyond using my inbox and my announcements feature for communicating with my students, for building community, we did utilize the chat feature for communicating on a daily basis. And the one thing that was really important to me as far as using the chat feature was that it was not available to students if I was not currently observing during office hours. And so what I would do, I'll show you real quick in case you didn't know, go to settings, the bottom choice in your tabs, and then choose navigation. And so then when I would log in for my office hours during the day, I would grab the chat bar and just drag it up here so that it would then be visible to students on the home screen. And at this point, it won't go up there and be visible when I refresh. But it allowed me to communicate with students in real time, and it also allowed the students to answer each other's questions. So someone would say, hey, did we have something for this today? Or how do I get to that? And another student would be able to answer them sometimes before I could, which was nice because I felt like I spent a lot of my time answering this inbox question or reaching out to a parent or something like that. And it enabled us to increase our response time and also left a little bit of openness for the kids to communicate with each other, although they knew that they were on a respectful platform. So that's really the rundown on my engagement and how I handled student engagement during distance learning. Erin, would you like to?
Kate, before I take over,
Yeah.
Lisa had a question about the chat. So you had to move it twice a day. Is that correct?
Yeah. So, you know, we were what, 9 to 11 and 1 to 2. Am I correct?
1 to 2.
So at about 8:55 in the morning when I would log on, I would update my announcement. And updating my announcements sometimes meant that instead of being on my computer, I would go to my iPad. I'd use my iPad to record myself doing my little video blurb or doing my little education. And then I'd log on to Canvas real quick on my iPad, plop it in my homeroom, and then I'd go to my computer and get everything else started. That was really the way that I found I could manage embedding things. And I can talk more about embedding things if you'd like. But all I would do is as soon as I'd log in, I would drag the chat feature into the visible bar on the side. I would head to the chat, and on my screen, on my laptop, and anybody can do this, of course, you right click on the chat bar and I would open it in a new tab. So I had a separate tab always open with the chat bar. I also kept a separate tab open with the inbox so that I wasn't always like flip-flopping back and forth. I could just move tabs on my screen and get to what I needed. And then I would hop in and I would say, good morning, happy Tuesday, something like that, so that they knew I was there. And then when it was time to hop off for the time being, I would just go in real quick to settings, drag the chat to be invisible, and it was gone and not available to them at that time.
All right, so I'm going to keep talking about engagement and a couple things I use to engage students online during our spring semester. To give you a little bit of background about myself, I teach, like I said, 6th grade at University Elementary School. My homeroom is made up, I teach the ALP students at University. So I have them all day for all subjects except for math. I do have some of my homeroom students for math, but I teach 8th grade math in-house at University School. So I have about half of my class, and then I have students who came to me from other classrooms as well, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade classrooms. So I had a Canvas course for my 6th graders, and this is my home screen that you're seeing right now for this Canvas course. This is where I would have posted their language arts, reading, writing, grammar, all of that, as well as science and social studies, health, SEL, any of those things. Then I actually had a different math course, which I'll talk about it a little bit because I wanted to show you how I did that a little bit differently. But I had a separate actual course from my dashboard for math. And that way my math students didn't have to go through all of my homeroom students. The other thing is University School is an IB school, and so, and being an international baccalaureate school, spring semester of 6th grade is when students do their exhibition project. So it's the culminating event of all elementary school IB of the primary years program, and they take everything they've learned from kindergarten all through 6th grade and put together into this final project. Well, our students had been working all year on this when we went to remote learning, and we wanted to have a way for them to still share these projects that they had worked on. And typically we would have done presentations at school. We would have done a big festival or fair where we invited classes to come by and see, invited parents, community members. And so I wanted to share some ways that we did that, and I'll do that a little later. But to start with, under engagement, continuing on, Kate shared how to use different Canvas communication tools. One way that I engaged my students was through teleconferencing, which at first I used Zoom until we were told, you know, no Zoom, there's Zoom bombing happening. And when we were told to go to Google Hangout Meets, I started using that, had a lot of success with that. And I'm gonna share how I used that in my classroom to connect with my kids, share directions, things like that. And Tim Pritchard just sent out an email a little bit ago that for the 2020-2021 school year, we'll be moving to Microsoft Teams. It works almost exactly like Zoom or Google Hangout Meets. A couple things that you should know about it. He's doing a training, and in his email, he shows the link for that so that you can do that training with him. But if you just get on and type into your browser, Microsoft.com, you're gonna be able to pull up the Microsoft Teams. Type in Microsoft Teams, and you're going to end up getting to this page. You can go ahead and sign up and play around with it even before his training. And what I did when I was learning Zoom and Google Hangout Meets, because these are things I had never done before, but I wanted to hit the ground running with them. All of these different teleconferencing platforms have a resource button. And if you go to this resource button, there's demos, there's quick start guide, there's training videos, and there's training courses. So last spring, I did a training course with Google Hangouts Meet, which was about, I wanna say it was about an hour. We got to see all, you know, they led us through all the things it can do. Microsoft Teams works very similar to all of those. The one really good thing about Microsoft Teams that I have not found that Hangouts Meet or Zoom has is that you can split your group into, you can split your class into several groups, and they can be working in groups, and you can hop in and out of those different groups without having to go to a different link. So I know that there's a lot of, oh, why do we have to learn something else? But there really are some good advantages to Microsoft Teams. So go ahead, check that out. And like I said, there's lots of trainings even outside of the district's training for it that you can do and see live videos, or if you forget what Tim says in his training, there's always that resource tab where you can go in and see. So for the rest of this, just assume that I'm using Google Hangouts Meet with my kids because that's what I used. And so for engaging with teleconferencing, what I decided worked best for me was every Monday morning, since we had that 9 to 11 every day office hours time, what I did was every Monday from 9 to 10, I required my students to get on. Now by required, did all of them show up? No. And most of them did usually. And I didn't ask them to get on every day because this was new for all of us. I'm going to talk about summer school in just a minute and what we're doing with summer school, and that's been really successful too. But for me, My students were used to every Monday morning starting the school day with connections, which if you were around when we did critical friends groups, connections was a part, it was a protocol for sharing, getting things off your chest, the good, the bad, the ugly, so that you could prepare for the week, think about the goals you had, and come in ready to learn. And so popcorn share, there's different norms that go into it. And it's something that my class had practiced all year long on Monday mornings. And so I wanted to keep that going. But I also needed a way to walk my students through using Canvas. I mean, when we were thrown into this, they didn't know how to use it at all. And when I started adding new technologies, I wanted to be able to walk them through it. So just like we are with you, I would split my screen during that Monday morning Google Hangouts meet and say, okay, so now you're gonna always find your announcements under announcements. And first thing in the morning, you're gonna click here, and I would walk them through it. So like I said, I required that teleconferencing every Monday morning from 9 to 10, which was during my office hours, so I wasn't setting aside extra time. And I always had the same link, and they could get to it by my home screen. So it was always the same link. During that time, like I said, I would walk them through any big directions for the day. So I would have all my modules for the week set up, and I would walk them through if there was any big projects going on or exhibition project. If I was going to throw in a new technology that week, I would make sure to walk them through that. And I would spend about 15 minutes going over just any direction, showing them, sharing what I needed to share. Then we would take about another 15 minutes and I would do some kind of teleconferencing mini lesson. And then we would take about 30 minutes and do our connections at the end. So our family meeting. So that happened once a week. And then for the rest of our office hours, for my classroom's office hours, so 10 to 11 on Monday, and then 9 to 11 Tuesday through Friday, and then Tuesday through Thursday when we cut down to 4 days, the students could get on the same link. And from 9 to 11, I had this up. So if I click on this, you're going to see that it starts to come up with my Google Hangout meets. So when it was time for me to have office hours, I just clicked that same link every day. I would log in, and then I would mute my mic and my video, because during office hours, no one else was really on but me, unless a student hopped in to ask a question or get some help. Now, of course, they could still use the chat. They could still email me. They could still message me through Canvas. But I'm going to go ahead and close this one out since we're not really getting into meets right now. But I'm sitting there, I'm still working on my computer during that time. I might be making videos for lessons that I'm going to post. I might be working on my modules for the next week. I might be answering parent emails. But I had that pulled up as a separate tab during my office hours, which allowed me to, as soon as a student logged on, if they had a question and they used that teleconferencing, I could talk to them face to face, and oftentimes answer them a lot better than if they emailed, because it was much quicker for me to share an explanation or split my screen and show them than try to figure out where they were having trouble or type it all up in an email. Now, I had some students who did not like using the face-to-face. They wanted to use email, and that was fine too. But I always had that as an option. And like I said, for those 2 hours on Tuesday through Thursday, and then that rest of the time on Monday, I really usually had 1 or 2 kids hop on every day to ask a question or get clarification or get tech help. It really helped me with tech help to be able to share my screen and show them how to navigate. And like I said, I always knew if they hopped on, even though I had it open as a different tab across the top of my screen, because as soon as they hop on and they unmute themselves, I could hear them even though they can't hear me or see me. And then I would just hop over to that tab, unmute myself, undo my video so that they could see me and talk to them. And then as soon as they logged off, I would remute myself and hide my video again and go about my work. So it gave me a nice chunk of time too, where I knew I was going to be sitting focused in front of my computer working without distractions around the house. So that's what I say down here, that they could always go to that. During the 1 to 2 time, which was also office hours, that is when I actually had a separate Google Hangouts Meet link for my math students to use. And so I had this posted on my math Canvas page as well as my homeroom page, since half my class was in my math class. So like I said, I used the same link for our Monday meetings as well as my office hours for homeroom. And then I had a separate link for math. And my homeroom students knew, if you are sending me an email, if it's between 9 and 11, I'm going to make sure that I answer it if I got it before then or during that time. If I get it after that, you might have to wait a while because I might be in my math office hours. So they knew that, but I did live office hours for my math students too, which really helped me keep in touch with all of my students better, since, like I said, some of them were from other classrooms. The other ways that I've used teleconferencing that I wanted to share is during summer school. So here I'm going to pull up, this is my summer school course right now. And you can see here, excuse me, every day, I'm going to actually come down to today. So Tuesday, July 14th, I have this set up as a module. My students every morning would click on whole class meeting. And for summer school, we're actually being required to have a whole class meeting every day at 9 o'clock with our students from 9 to 9:15. And for me, it's been really nice. Not all my students log on every single day, but most of them do. If they don't get on, I'm recording the session, and afterwards I link the recording to here. So with Google Hangouts Meet, once you are done with the recording, it automatically saves it to your drive. So if I go to my Google Drive here, you can see right here, summer school large group. That was from today. And then I could actually say, whoops, now it moved over here. I could just take that link and I would be able to then edit my page. So when the kids are seeing this first thing in the morning, it does not yet say, click here to watch today's large group meeting, because obviously we haven't had the meeting yet. But then after that video is in my Google Drive, I just take the link, I type this, I highlight the words, click here. This is the button where I would link a URL, and I would paste the link in and say update link. Now they can click here and they can watch the video if they weren't a part of that class session. I did that a little bit with my homeroom this year. So if I go under resources here, and once again, these are things that I would have taught the kids on our Monday morning meetings, but you can see here, a couple of our Monday morning meetings, and one fell on a Tuesday, had some really important information for my students with our exhibition visual fair overview, when we were creating our central ideas as a group, when I gave some updates and directions, things that I definitely wanted them to know. So once those videos were available to me, I linked them and I told the kids they're gonna always be under your class resources. So they could actually go back, click on it, and they're going to be taken to this video that's on my Google Drive. Oh, I look lovely there. So they could watch that. And if they were either absent that day, or if they logged on late, or if they had Wi-Fi issues, or whatever happened to them, they could hop on and get that. So I did that. Like I said, with summer school, we basically are meeting from 9 to 9:15. I'm using, and to be honest, if we go to remote learning again this next year, I very much plan on using the same kind of structure. Monday, I want to still do an hour meeting where I go over the week, I do a mini lesson, and then we have connections. But every other day, I would actually this year do what I'm doing with summer school and have a 15-minute morning meeting every single day. It gets the kids up and on at the same time, because I had some kids who wouldn't wake up till noon, and then they're trying to email me, but by that time office hours are over. And so I think having a place to touch base has worked really well with summer school. I am teaching E&L students this summer, so I've embedded a link where they can have the directions read to them. And this is just basically an overview for them for the day. They can click and join our Google Hangouts Meet. So that's how I use this. In math, well, let me come back to that. So that's how I use teleconferencing. During those meetings, the only other thing I wanted to make sure to share during teleconferencing is And we started this during summer school, but I definitely did it with my kids on our Monday morning meetings in the spring. And then I would just post things Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for them as brain breaks or brain warm-ups. So one of the things that we're doing is during that 15-minute whole class teleconferencing meeting, we are making sure we're starting with some kind of engagement or launch, whether it's go around your house and find something that's a sphere if you're talking about geometry, or something where they're getting up, moving, getting engaged, so some kind of scavenger hunt. I've been oftentimes using, let me come back up here and show you this image. So let's say that you were my students and we're starting our day, and I'd say, okay, we're gonna warm up our brains. Here are several things that I found when I was walking around my neighborhood on my walk with my dog. What do all these things have in common? And I would give you 15, 30 seconds to come up with what they all have in common. You would tell me, we'd talk about them. These are really easy for me to make. I take my dog for a walk every day, so I just think of a theme and I take pictures. I use, if you don't have this app on your phone, I just take pictures with my phone, and it's a great app. I love it. It's called Pic Stitch, P-I-C space Stitch, and you can put together all kinds of pictures, and it gives you all different layout options. So it's really great if you're kind of making a collage. So starting the whole class meeting in the morning with some kind of launch, some kind of engagement, some kind of warm up, and then a 10-15 minute lesson, mini lesson, give your directions for the day and set the kids off to work. And then with teleconferencing this summer, then you can see here, here's today's. So the kids had the whole class meeting, they click on independent work, it gives them their directions for the day, and then here's the different assignments that are going to do. And then if they click on small group meetings, they get back on from 11 to 11:15, which, let's be honest, I always go over my 11:15 time. But then there's a separate link for me and my teaching partners and me, and the kids in that group can just click on it and we go over their assignments for the day. And I think that was something that I struggled with in the spring, is how am I going to collect all this work and grade it and give kids feedback? And a lot of times it was work that I don't need to score. I just need to make sure that they understand what the main point was and that they get to ask questions about what they missed. So teleconferencing for 15-20 minutes with small groups in the afternoon is another way that you can just go over work quickly. And I'll show you one more idea for that in a second as well. So that's, excuse me, all that I have for engagement. Any questions before we move on to academics and talking about academics? All right. So then with academics, I wanted to talk about organization of daily modules to start with, and what I would put into my daily modules. For my homeroom, and remember this was all subjects except for math for my homeroom 6th graders. I'm gonna scroll down, I wrote down a date here for me to look at, April 28th and March 31st. So I had a different module every day. I think a lot of you did too. All right, let me go to March 31st. Oh, March 31st is way up here. I was thinking May. All right, so when they open that, what I would usually do is I would have all my directions, so grammar directions, and then indented under anything they would need, reading directions, and then indented under anything they would need, and so on. So if they were to click on grammar directions, I made sure in my modules to always have a page with directions. Now, I do teach advanced 6th graders so they could read a little bit more. Like I said, with my summer school, I try to keep my directions shorter, and I also record myself reading the directions. So this is a good time for me to show you how I do that recording of me reading directions for students, as well as making videos for my students. Let me come back over here and show you on my homeroom before I get into showing you the video software. I'm gonna come down here. So here's my reading directions for the day. And if the kids were to click on this, they can see here, today we'll continue reading Hound of the Baskervilles. This was the novel we had started in class, and we went on shutdown or remote learning. And so obviously none of my kids had this book with them. I also don't really want to send home all my books with kids every night in case there's a shutdown. even this year, because I don't really want all my books in homes and I want all my books left at school this year. There are tons of websites where you can get PDFs for free books, the entire text. So I found one for Hound of the Baskervilles. I just linked the PDF for kids on the directions. So every day they could pull this up. They would scroll to the page we were starting with, and in my directions, I would tell them what page. So down here at the bottom, you can see I'm on page 5 of 206, and they could scroll. And I wanted them, since this was a book we were reading together in class, well above not well above, but on the high end of their reading level. So something I needed to talk through with them, not just have them read on their own. What I would have them do under reading directions is they would pull it up, go to that page. Here's the PDF for them to pull it up. And then they would click on read aloud. And this would be a video of me reading this book aloud to my students. So I'm going to play you just a bit of this so you can hear. So this is how I would start it out. We are starting chapter 11 today, The Man on the Tour. If you would open your PDF of Hound of the Baskervilles, and when you scroll over the PDF down at the bottom, you should be on page 133. So page 133, Man on the Tour, top of chapter 11. As always, make sure that you are listening to me read aloud as well as following along with the words, keeping up with the plot, making sure you're comprehending and understanding. So basically, I wanted the kids to not just listen to me, I wanted them to see those words in context as well. So I would tell them to open this up, have it playing, and then open their PDF. And when I made this video, I stay on this page the entire time. I just share it with them so that they can see it, know where to start, but then they're listening to me and they're actually scrolling through the PDF as I read aloud. That gave me the opportunity to stop and pause and talk about what's happening in the plot as well. And so that's one type of video that I made. And another way that I utilized videos quite a bit were in math class. Let me come down here. If they clicked on math directions, so like I said, every time I set up a module, I made sure to always have directions, but a lot of times I embedded videos, and I promise I'll get to how I made those videos in just a minute. But for math, if you teach CMP3 in 6th, 7th, 8th grade math, the math lessons are designed as a launch, an explore, and a summarize. And the launch is usually a mini lesson. You're hooking the kids, you're getting their attention, you're telling them about what the objectives are for the day. Then there's this classwork where they're practicing either on their own or in a small group, getting help from you. And then there's the summarize, going over different ways to do it. Well, the structure doesn't work perfectly on online learning, but the way that I adapted it for math is each day they would get on, they would click on math directions, they would watch their launch video. So once again, I would just take a picture with my phone and scan the pages and have it up while I voice recorded over. Today is Tuesday the 28th, and we are starting investigation 3, problem 3. So I would share the objectives. You can see this video is 2 minutes and 12 seconds. So my launches usually went over a couple little pointers, maybe reviewed some things from the day before, got them interested in the lesson for the day. So just like I would in class. And then it says to open their classwork packet. So they would go back, they would open the attachment, they would try the classwork on their own. During that time, they could hop on the teleconferencing with me on Google Hangouts Meet and ask questions, work with me. Sometimes if I had 2 or 3 kids on that office hours Google Hangouts Meet at the same time, they would help each other. And then they'd watch a summarized video. I didn't feel the need to grade, quote unquote, their work every single day. So instead I would make this summarized video, and whatever classwork they did, once again, I would have that scanned PDF up and I would go through each problem with them, and I'd use my writing tool and write my answers off to the side, show them multiple ways to do it. During this time, this is when I would have them check their own work. So I actually had kids grade their own work a lot. If I go back to my module here, you're going to see that I also then asked them to do reflections at the end of each day. And oftentimes those reflections, that's how they turned in their work to me. So let me do a preview here so that you can see it. I set these reflections up as quizzes in Canvas. And so for example, which questions did you miss on checkup 1? So they did the work or they did the classwork and they scored it themselves. And I started each of the summarized videos with, how about a grading pen or a highlighter? It's not that it's going to count off in any way, but this way you and I can see what you missed and you can think about why. So I just said, which problems did you miss? For each question that you missed, explain to me why you now understand what the answer should have been by watching the summarized video, or let me know if you don't fully still understand it. So this was a way for me to just do a quick checkup and see, okay, I missed number 1 and 5. I get it. Here I added decimals wrong, and here I just totally forgot what I was doing, but now I know that I need to do X, Y, and Z. Or, hey, Ms. Cerwinske, I still don't understand this at all. And that way I could start the next day with it. So I really utilized in my modules exit tickets a lot. As part of this quiz too, it actually asked them to take a picture with their iPad of the work and submit it. So they'd answer these couple questions and they would take a picture of their scored work, which when I say scored, they scored it by watching my summarized video. And I would get to see their graded work just to check, are they trying? Are they attempting it? Where are they going wrong? If they can't verbalize it themselves, me as the teacher, I can see where they went wrong. And then I can hear from them how they're feeling about the different questions and their level of understanding. So I utilize modules, directions, videos, exit tickets. Let me show you what I use to make these videos, which I think is one of the last things I want to share here before Kate takes back over and shares how she embedded some things with academics. Excuse me. I used a program called Screencastify, and this was shared with me from one of the techs over at RBB District. And Screencastify is up here in the corner, Screencastify. You just go to screencastify.com. You're going to see that my screen already has it installed, so I don't have anything to click on. But if you go here, you can actually click on this right where mine says already installed and install it. What it is it's an extension of Google. So we have our G Suites, right? Which is our Google Docs, our Google Drive, our Google Sheets, our Google Slides, our Google everything. This is an extension of it. And once you download it onto your iPad, laptop, desktop, over on my screen on this right side with my cursor, I'm circling this little arrow that has a 3 next to it because I have some messages in there. Once you install this, it will always show up right here on your screen. And so this is where I would click then if I wanted to make a video, because it's an extension of Google Chrome. It's there now until I remove it as an extension. In the spring, Screencastify was offering, so with the free version, you can make up to 5-minute videos, which works really well for summer school because usually my videos are pretty short. And that's what I do when I say click here to have the directions read to you. If I click on this, you can see that I'm sharing my screen. It's the directions for the day. And then I do a voiceover reading those directions in case kids need help reading it. So for a video like that, it's going to be less than 5 minutes. In the spring, Screencastify knew that teachers all over the country were in desperate need of technology to help them transition and teach from home. So they offered their pro version for free, which meant that I could read Hound of the Baskervilles for 30 minutes and make a 30-minute video. I could do a longer math lesson. Right now, they're no longer offering it for free. That ended at the end of June. It might be that if our state or country goes on another shutdown that they might offer it again for free. I would definitely still, I'm personally just going to pay for it myself. It's, I believe, $48 for a year subscription, but it's something that I will still use on Canvas even this coming year, because I know that I'm going to have so many students in my homeroom that they're going to be split into 2 classrooms for social distancing. And so at times I might be with group A doing a live lesson with them, and group B may be watching a video of me teaching and working on work that I'll have posted under a module on Canvas. So I still want a way to be able to make videos. You have all sorts of options. If that's not in your price range or you don't want to pay for it, I totally understand. But I would get in touch with your PTO, see if they have funds, write a grant. There's lots of ways to get it. But let me show you what it looks like when you click on it. So if I were going to make a video right now, let's say that I want to read some of Hound to the Baskervilles for you. So I'm going to pull up whatever I want to be talking about, right? Whether it's a scan that I made, whether it's a PDF. And let's say that today I'm making a reading video and we're starting right here. Looks like a good place to start. By the way, a great app that I found for scanning is called TurboScan, T-U-R-B-O space scan. Once again, there's a free version, there's a paid version. I went ahead and paid for the paid version. I just turned it into, well, not this year. I put it in my receipts for my 2020 taxes. I think the paid version is $5 or $6 to have the app always, not every year, but $5 or $6 always. And you can scan in color, you can scan in black and white. You just hold your phone up, it finds the edges of your paper automatically. And then you can email it to yourself as a PDF or as a document. So that's what I used when you saw those math pages under my math screen. I used TurboScan, sent them to myself on email. I scanned them with my phone, sent them to myself on email, and then opened them up and used Screencastify to talk about them. So let me quickly show you what Screencastify looks like once you get it on your computer. So over here, it's always there. I click on it. And let me move your pictures out of the way here so I can see it a little bit better. Gotta move you up, there we go. Okay, so I have a couple options. I can show just a browser tab, meaning you are only gonna see what's on this one browser tab here. I can show my whole desktop if I wanna switch between tabs or I wanna show you something like a Word document. I can go webcam only, which is going to then show you just my face. What I oftentimes would do is desktop, and I would enable my mic so that I could do a voiceover. If I said record right now, it would start recording just what it sees here plus my voice. I could also say enable webcam, and it's going to, and it might not do it right now because I'm on a Zoom call, obviously, so my webcam's being used. But I'm gonna say record, and it's gonna count me down 3, 2, 1. And I just wanna show you what that looks like for a second. Oh, there's my webcam. We're gonna start. Let me move you guys back over here. All right, let me try that one more time. I don't think it actually started. So, desktop, enable webcam, record. Failed to start. Okay, so it's not recording right now because I'm on Zoom. So it's not wanting to let me double use my mic and double use my picture, my webcam. But what would typically happen is my picture would pop up right over here. I would talk. I could actually move my picture, drag it over, drag it out of the way. And when I was done, there'd be a button at the bottom that says stop recording. Just like Google Hangouts Meet, where those files automatically go to your Google Drive, since Screencastify is an extension of Google, it automatically goes to your drive. So every video that I've made, if I go to my drive, I scroll down to S for Screencastify, I did not even create this folder. This Screencastify folder right here, when I installed Screencastify, it automatically made this folder for me. So you don't have to do that. It's gonna save all your videos to this spot. And here you can see all my math videos. Here's some of my, so here, Darla Murders or Rue Morgue feedback. So I used Screencastify this spring to also give feedback to kids. So they submitted their exhibition papers online. And since I don't have a printer at home to print and score them and give their work back, I actually read their paper out loud. And as I read it, I said, okay, so right here, do you hear how you should have paused or you should have used a comma here? And that way kids could look at their own paper and watch a video of me giving feedback to them at the same time. So that's how I graded papers and gave them feedback. This, in fact, took me about 10 minutes a kid to make a video. In the past, it's taken me about 20 to 30 minutes per kid to grade a paper. So I found that this worked way better and something that I'll continue to use. And let's see, what else was, oh, okay. So when you say stop recording, not only will it automatically go into this folder, but you'll also get another pop-up tab here. You can title it whatever you want before you close it. So here I called it Darla's Room Morgue Feedback, Day 1 Teacher Directions. So you can title it, and off to the side, there's a button that'll say copy link. So once again, I can just copy the link. I can go over, I can say edit, and I can embed that link in, and they can watch that video. So it's something worth playing around with, in my opinion. Once again, Screencastify definitely has different tutorials that you can watch to see when you first upload it to your computer, install it on your computer. There's actually a really good little short video that they show you right away when you first install it to walk you through. But I'm happy to answer questions. If you ever have questions, I'll put my email in the chat, and you are more than welcome to email me if you have questions about any of those things. And the final thing I wanted to say is, how am I going to use Canvas this next year? Well, like I said, my kids are going to be split between 2 classrooms just because of class size and social distancing. So I'm going to, every morning, rather than, I think most of you also probably start the day with some kind of morning message up on the board or up on the screen. Kids come in, it's their welcome message, what to do. I'm going to continue using my announcements tab, just like Kate showed at the beginning, with daily announcements for the kids, instead of projecting it on my screen, so that every kid gets used to every single morning coming in, clicking on announcements, getting started on some kind of morning work. And then I'll continue to use modules, not as extensively as I did in the spring when everything had to be on there, but I'll continue to use modules for overall directions, videos for the half of my class who's not currently face-to-face with me, so that they still, even though there'll be obviously an aide or someone in there watching them, so that they still aren't just sitting doing busy work. The last thing I want for my students is for them to be doing busy work while I take care of the other half of the class this year. I want them to still be doing meaningful instruction. So I plan on utilizing Screencastify and modules and giving directions for that as well. So those are some of my best tips, tricks. Let me know if you have any questions. And like I said, I'll put my email in the chat. So I will stop sharing my screen and send it back to Kate.
Okay, hey, thanks, Erin. I don't have a whole lot more to share, but I wanted to give you a peek at what it looked like in a departmentalized setting for how we set up our daily modules and what kind of resources I used to work with kids. You know, it's hard to reach 4 homerooms worth of kids. And so my strategy kind of became combining ready resources that made sense content-wise, because I didn't have as much face-to-face time with such a wide variety of children that I was covering. So as a team, we decided that we wanted to kind of alternate throughout the week. Monday and Wednesday was a math content day. Tuesday, Thursday was a science content day. And here's an example. And I'm in a 5th grade class right now, showing you what I prepared. This is an example of how I created math content, paired up things that I wanted to go together. So for example, I would always start off the day with instructions. I gave them standards, and I gave them expectations and a list of things for them to do for each day. I also always embedded Khan Academy videos that went along with the content that they were covering, and then gave them the link to get to Study Island for them to follow up with the direct standard that I was covering. Let me see if I can continue on and get to the next day. It's been an interesting experience trying to share Canvas pages with other teachers. We had to kind of create a set of norms as far as, oh, come on, let me keep going. Oh, this is going to be difficult. We had to, you know, create norms, which, you know, we had to think about how I wanted to disperse my content across other classrooms and how they were going to receive it and push it out. And we had to create, you know, we had to create some rules for ourselves. Like, I'm going to create these assignments, but then I'm going to drop it into one person's Canvas, and the other person's going to duplicate it and share it across. Oftentimes in science, because, you know, it was hard to share FOSS. I mean, you know, we were in the middle of a thing and we had materials and it was all going so great, and then we all left. I worked on finding Learn 360 videos that supported the content that we were exploring, and then I would follow it up with a Newsella article with questions. Then following the article and the questions, I gave a place where students needed to log in and submit their answers in a text box, or they could upload a picture of what they wrote on paper, whatever they needed to do. Want to take you back here real quick. That's basically, you know, when it came down to, I have to get this to be manageable, those were the resources that I combined to make it work and to make sure it was specific to the things we needed to be covering. But at the end of the semester, I wanted to also add some more interesting things that they could check out and work on. So for the last week, I don't know if this is going to let me show you this or not. I added an kind of an open opportunity with this menu for them to choose activities and then upload for me their experience, whether it was a picture, a video. Here we go. This was what science looked like for the last week of the year. And I got some really fantastic responses. The kids really enjoyed what they did, and it really didn't rely on too much of their, you know, of a burden on supplies or time. I'm happy to share that with you if you want. Obviously, I did not make it. Let's see if I go back. As far as math goes, navigating someone else's thing is so interesting. We worked on Geometry Town. Where is it going? Maybe I'll get there, maybe I won't. I don't know. The math for the last week, we worked on Geometry Town. It gave an open-ended bunch of instructions for streets for them to create, buildings for them to create, and they would just take a picture of the geometry town that we created and upload it to me. I also provided for them a ready reference of geometric shapes and names, so that when they were deciphering what they were to do, they had a resource. I got a really fantastic NASCAR themed Geometry Town. It was super fun. And then I wanted to share one more thing that we did. Actually, my teaching partner created this, but it turned out to be a phenomenally fun experience. Using the quiz feature, my co-teacher created a math escape room, which essentially was 5 quizzes, one after the other, and each quiz involved a specific math skill. And in order to get the code to open the next quiz, you had to use part of each answer in order to, I have gone too far, look at that. You had to use part of each answer. Where even am I? I'm sorry. There it is. You had to use part of each answer to get the code to open the next room. And so here's what it looks like. See if I can pull it down for you a little bit. They were given 5 questions to answer. They would take the quiz, and then when they went on to the next one, they'd have to have this code that they figured out from the previous 5 questions in order to get into the next quiz. It was really fun. It really challenged them at the end of the year, and it provided a good opportunity for some comprehensive review. And I think we all really enjoyed it. The teachers wanted to give it a try too. So if you'd like more information on how we created it, or even to look at any of these resources, I will also share my email in the chat feature. I think I covered it all. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I know we are out of time, but I didn't want to interrupt because the ideas were so good. And I think, I know I learned a lot, and I think other people did too. So thank you guys so much.
If anyone, there was one other thing I wanted to share. So I'll let Dr. Prinkus close us out, but then if anyone wants to stay on and see, the last thing that I actually had written down that I forgot to share was, I talked about at the beginning, this exhibition project that our students had worked on all year, and how we couldn't have a live fair, and how are we going to present these projects and make them public for the community and for each other. And so with the help of our librarian and IB coordinator and our 6th grade teachers, we came up with a way that I will use in the future as well, and I'm hoping to use this year, especially since we still, even though if we do have face-to-face and that doesn't get shut down, we still can't go to the cafeteria and have a big fair or anything like that. So after Dr. Prinkert closes us out, if you want to stay around, I'll show you what we came up with to present big projects where every kid still has a voice, but can go in and see other people's projects as well.
Yeah, so all I really had to say is just thank you for everybody who took time, their schedule, to join us today. And a huge thank you to Erin and Kate, because again, you guys did a lot of amazing things. You know, this is impressive. You guys really have spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I love your ideas of what you do differently and how you do it again. And so thank you. And anybody who needs to drop off, feel free. If you want to stick around for a few more minutes, Erin will show us this, or we'll answer any other questions. But again, thanks everyone. And if you want PGP points, you do need to click on you need to go back to the PD sign up and click on there's like a PGP points here link, and you have to answer a couple questions, and then you'll get emailed your PGP points. So thanks. All right, Erin, back to you, or Kate.
Well, I'll make this really quick here for anyone who wants to see. So from my Google Drive, what we ended up coming up with as a way to share. So let me give you a little bit of background about the exhibition if you aren't familiar with it. So with the primary years program with IB, every student either in 5th grade or 6th grade, whatever grade is the top age, has to do a project that has a meaningful action and research about a problem in the world. And so we have the students start by looking at the 17 sustainable goals through the United Nations. So there are things like no poverty, equal access to education, things like that. So they pick one of those as their big idea, their area of interest, and then they develop a topic under it. So you can see how we work all year to teach research skills. First of all, how do you narrow down from a big area of interest to an actual topic? How do you write a researchable question? How do you have focus questions? All those kind of things. So what we finally decided for them to each share out their project, because we had over 90 6th graders who were all parts of different goals. So right here you can see these are the 17 sustainable goals for the United Nations. So no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being. So these are all kids' names. And our librarian set up this as a Google Doc. So she gives a little overview for our virtual fair. She embedded pictures. She wrote each kid's name that fell under that topic. So for example, under No Poverty, Lily did a project, Erica did a project, Nessie's project isn't linked anymore, but Giovanni, Maddox, and Landon. So you could click on any of the linked ones and still see their projects. So even though they all fall under No Poverty, they might have talked about very different things. So even though all these kids fell under Zero Hunger, they had very different topics. And that one I can talk about more because I remember their projects off the top of my head a little better at this point. But Zero Hunger was things like food waste and throwing away. So looking at things like imperfect fruits and vegetables and what happens to them, restaurants throwing away food, and how Hoosier Hills in town takes food and rescues it and does repack sessions. And so it could be something like that. It could also be things like school lunches, and that could be Zero Hunger. So lots of different ideas under each. Once our media librarian set up this page, she put all their names, and so the teachers gave her our kids list, and she did that work for us, which was really helpful. Excuse me. And then the 6th grade teachers, we got together and we created what we wanted every student's page to look like. So we wanted them to have at the top a bio and a picture of themselves. Then we wanted them to list their United Nations Sustainable Goal. We wanted them to type their research question, their focus question, facts that they learned, what was their action plan. Some of them had already taken action. Some of them were still able to take action despite the shutdown. Some of them made their plans for the future once they're able to get back out into the world more. Links that people could go to if they want to get involved and help. So what the teachers did is we went through and we said, okay, here's the key. In purple, all of this, you need to read the requirements, complete that section, and then delete anything in purple. So anything in purple, we don't want it on your final page. Anything in green, those are the due dates. So you need to have this section done by Monday the 20th. You need to have this section done by Wednesday the 22nd. And then delete the green, delete the purple. Anything in black, we had a key up here and said, this is a heading, don't delete it or modify it. That's the heading that you keep. This is something that I actually would have pulled up when I was talking to my kids on Monday morning and splitting my screen and walking through this with them and saying, you're gonna click on it from your module. Here's how you make a copy of it. Please don't type directly into it, right? All those things that you need to talk to with kids. And then once they had this done, what we had them do is share it with us to our mccsc.net account. So let's say that my name's Shannon and I finish this. I'm going to share it. I'm going to put it in my teacher's name, send it. And so all of their finished ones went to my .net. I was then able to open them up from my .net email, come back here, and what I would do is I would highlight Lily's name. I would get the link from her page. So here she sent me her link to my .net. I would copy her link. I would come over here, highlight it, and then I would go up here to insert link, and I would push in her, obviously paste in her link and put apply. And now let me show you what happens when you go to it. You actually will see Lily's page. Why isn't it opening up all big? Let's try that again. So it's opening a preview right now. My Zoom is in the way, but I can make that bigger. There we go. So then you see Lily's page. And the last thing that we had students do, so there's her picture, all about her project, her researchable question. But that way, anyone in the community that we sent this out to, parents, students, they could look at each other's. So kids who were in my class could look at projects from kids in the other class. I know several of our 4th and 5th grade teachers used this. The 6th grade teachers sent out a scavenger hunt to those grade levels, and we used it for our own classes as well, saying, find someone else who's in the same topic as you or the same area of interest and look over their page. What were 3 interesting facts you found? So that way it's not just click and kind of skim it, but we actually had an assignment that went with it as a scavenger hunt. This is still available for kids and parents to go look at. And then we also had, if you clicked here, we had a Padlet linked to it where parents and students could go in, other teachers, students in other classes, and they could write comments. And so it was really fun for our students who did all this hard work to go back and see the compliments. And we had directions on this for it to be positive feedback about one student's exhibition project. So some of the comments are general, but we did ask people to be specific about, you know, if you looked at Ryan's and you really liked X, Y, and Z about that, state it. And that was part of the scavenger hunt as well, was to go and leave a comment. And so it was really fun for them to get to go through and see those. And you can see some of our teachers left comments with their pictures, and that was really fun for the kids to get to see it. And so that was just another way to celebrate their success together, since they couldn't go table to table and see each other's projects in person. So making a Google Doc and linking it to other Google Docs is a really great way to make one page. And then this link to this main page is what we sent out. Our principal sent it out through our listserv, and teachers sent it out through our parent communication email list. And then we also posted that link to our main page to social media. So that is that. Now I'm trying to figure out how to get my, I lost you guys. I'm trying to figure out how to get it back. Where did you go? Okay, stop sharing. There we go. All right. So that's it. Anyone have any questions? Anyone who's left? All right. Well, then I will close this out and say thank you so much for listening and attending, and feel free to email anytime if you have questions.
Thanks, everyone.
Enjoy the rest of your day.